So welcome to the market update of the week. So this week we're going to talk about what's happening in the real estate market. There's a lot of talks like what is happening right now? Like what's Arizona's real estate market doing? There's a lot of buzzwords. Anybody heard those buzzwords lately? Like in the news and media, like what's going on, right? Some of these sounds familiar, like the housing market's going to collapse. There's a bubble. Do you know what the #1 keyword search? Let me back up for a second. If you ever do Google pay-per-click or Google Ads, right? Some agents, some companies just go out there naturally and just go to Google and start creating ads. Well, the strategic way to do it is by going to a website called trends.google.com. Anybody heard of that? Mm-hmm. Trends.google.com will give you, if you're trying to promote a particular keyword, you can type it and it will tell you how many people, what is the average
using that word.
Correct. What's that keyword? Because everything on Google is based on keyword searches, right? So if you search for homes in Mesa, homes with a pool, that's a keyword, it's a query, it's a string. So trends.google.com will tell you how popular that string is. Guess what the most popular search query string right now and Google Analytics is so far nationwide?
Housing bubble.
Housing bubble. Housing bubble. That's the #1 keyword search right now. So, and the reason why is because you have all this media attention throwing all this information at you. I mean, like I love Dory. Ooh, bubbles, right? Ooh, right? Like what's really going on? Home affordability at 2007 bubble levels, which is true. Affordability is through the floor, right? We talked about this, and we'll talk about it again here in a few slides. It is cheaper today to rent than it is to buy. I'll say it again, it's cheaper to rent than it is to buy. An average person right now in Arizona, the average median household income is $80,000. The average price point of a home is $459,000. Maricopa and Pinal County together. It takes the average median family to make $121,000 to be able to afford that property. That's insane. So the average person in Arizona can no longer afford to buy the medium-sized home in Arizona or Maricopa, Pinal County. And then you have all these trends, right? All these words. We're in a historical overvalued housing market and the cities could see home prices drop 10%, Moody says. We talked about it last week, that I projected that this year we're gonna have about 11% price drop in this year alone. Everybody's saying 10%, that a huge crash is coming, a huge correction is coming. Why is that? Well, honestly, the reason why is for a lot of different variables. One is, well, prices of homes keep going up. We've gone up 34% since March, right? Since January to March, 34% in appreciation. We also had a historical increase in mortgage rates. Historical. And what I mean by that is at one point. And the Fed's already announced that they're going to make aggressive increase in some rates here in June and July and through the rest of the year to combat inflation. If you guys were here a few weeks ago when I was listening to Powell talk, he was explaining what he was going to do, and I wrote up in the board the bullet points, and it sounded like a creation of a predetermined recession is coming, which is the only way to battle inflation. But if you look at it, this is actually last week. Right now, rates are about 5.3, 5.5%. That also depends on a couple of different variables: how much you're putting down, what kind of loan type, and what your FICO score is. If you're under a 680 or between a 660 and a 680, you're probably going to be about 5.6, 5.7, and you probably have to buy some points down. One thing I will tell you, you're going to have a lot of clients come to you and talk to you that I have a lender that can do it cheaper. I have a lender that can do a better rate at 4.75. I will tell you that's a bunch of lies. What those lenders are doing is telling you what those rates can be if you buy a point or a two. And what happens is they don't tell you that information until later on. You get under contract and you find out what your cash to close is, and it's astronomical, $20,000 plus, more than you assume to be. And that is because they're making you buy all these points down, because these banks know that in a year from now or a year and a half from now, because the Feds have said it, they're going to drop rates again. And they know you're going to refinance this loan. And they know the banks are going to take in the shorts. And the servicing companies are going to take in the shorts. So they're preloading all the rates up front. So this graph will show you that even though rates are going up, a year to a year and a half after they increase, they always go back to where they came from. It's like a cat. You can drop the cat off in the middle of the desert, it'll come back, right? The cat always comes back. Or like a boomerang, you throw a boomerang, it'll come back to you. Rates, historically, have always come back to where they started up between 12 and 36 months. So right now, consumers are saying, well, rates are going up, I don't want to buy a home. Well, we talked about the last domino to fall in the market before we have a major market economic change is prices, right? Well, they're saying the prices are still going to go up, which they are. They're still upticking a little bit, kind of, sort of. So if you have a buyer saying, I'm going to wait for the prices to drop and the mortgage rates to drop, you can't have one or the other, right? So it's better to buy and knowing that in a year, look at the last two, in a year, you will be able to refinance back to where you were. 10 months, 4 months, this is 3 years, so forth and so on. So what does the market look like right now? This dashboard is a true indicator of our overall health of our market. The things we care about is supply, our market index, and demand. For a long time, our supply index was really low. What I mean by that, it was low in terms of days on market. We had sometimes, we were at a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks of inventory. Now we're back to like a month. Projected, we can be a month and a half, especially up to today. The market index, we all know that's multiple indicators that feed in to tell us the true health of our market. Look where the market index is at now, across the valley. Why is that important? Because beginning of the year, we're 500 plus. We're 500 plus, and as of yesterday, we went to 579. And we talked about this 3 weeks ago, remember? We were at 400, and I said that it's gonna take weeks, not months, before we get below 300. Here we are today at 300. If we continue in this path, we'll be at 180 points by the middle of July. Why is that important? Because anything over 100 means between 100 and 160 is a okay seller's market. Anything above 180 is a strong seller's market. Anything at certain points, just like 500, that's just insane. Houses are on fire. Below 100, it means that 100 means a balanced market. Below 100 means a buyer's market. So the way we're trending by the end of July, we'd be probably back at a buyer's market or going towards a balanced market. The demand indicator below 100 means that the demand is fluctuating. Now, demand was, this tachometer was onto the floor. Demand was super, super high. This inventory was super, super low. Now the demand has hit below 100. It's the first time this year since it happened. Last time it happened was during COVID. But it quickly, in 4 months, recaptured back, and it just went stupid from there. So this is concerning. These are all three are concerning indicators of what our market is like. So let me explain. Last week, we averaged 20 points across the board as far as demand has fallen. This week, we're at 28%. So the biggest ones that hit were Avondale. Avondale had never really had a supply increase like other cities had because it was Fountain Hills, Scottsdale. A lot of cities had a huge increase in the inventory. Avondale just got hammered last week. Their demand went down. A lot of different factors too. Could be in the long weekend. We talked about open houses. A lot of agents don't have good success in open houses this weekend because a lot of families were gone. But our market is very cyclical, so meaning that during the summertime, regardless, it always goes down because families are more concerned getting out of town. Kids are on vacation, they don't have time to search. It doesn't pick up again until August every year. The only exception was during COVID. During COVID, the housing market was just crazy no matter how hot it was. So every city right now averages 28 points drop. Buckeye will be at a buyer's market in the next 3 weeks if it continues the way it's going. It has dropped 22, so from 214 down to 165. So Buckeye, regardless how much money they have invested into their local infrastructure and local amusements or walkability rate, means like restaurants or marketplace, it doesn't matter. Buckeye in the next 3 weeks, if it continues at this progression, it'll be at 100 or close to 100 by the end of the month, in the next 3 weeks. Queen Creek took a big dive too at 37% in change. as well as Gilbert took a 38%. Everybody here, except only 7 cities, did not hit over 30%.
So do you think as it becomes more of a buyer's market, I have sellers that have said to me for the last year, I'd sell my house right now, but I got nowhere to go. Do you think as it opens up, now they're gonna see an opportunity to list and maybe move, cause they wanna move, cause either a downside, a life change, whatever it is. You know, reducing their footprint as they're getting older, or going from a second story to a one story, cause they don't wanna climb stairs. Do you
If
think
you're a
that's gonna
seller in
happen?
that situation right now, is probably the best time. The reason why, because if your home is still decently priced, and if your home is not complete, what I call a shit show, mind you, for the last year and a half, all we've seen is called list your junk season. Every home was looked like it was collapsed, the foundation was sinking in, and people were still paying top dollar for it, right? Wholesalers have been vanquished. How many people get a call from a wholesaler at least once or twice a day? Hey, do you have any upcoming properties to flip?
I do.
All the time. Why? Because consumers now have put their homes on the market because there's no homes to sell, and it's sold traditionally, right? People with appraisals, people with this, people with repairs, and people were listing homes that shouldn't have been listed, that should have had some love, some TLC, and they're still getting top dollar. So for a seller, that was the biggest topic for them, right? If I sold my property, it's gonna be gone. But there was 3,500 homes to choose from in the entire Arizona MLS. It's a little different today. Matter of fact, it's a lot different today. Remember, it was actually on April 29th of this year, we're at 3,500 and change homes. Remember that? Not even a month from now. It was actually a little, month and a week. I'll share with you what it's really like now. But in that conversation for a seller, this is probably your best time because you have so much more inventory. Rates are still, so who cares?
Before
Rates
it
are
gets worse.
Rates right now are rates are at who cares, right? That's what I care, right? Because your payment, realistically, if you're gonna wait for a payment of a difference of $50 to $100, maybe you shouldn't buy a home, because everybody's waiting for these rates to drop. Well, prices are gonna increase. You can change your rate, you can't change your purchase price. Once you lock in at that mortgage rate, you can't change it unless you trip over a pot of gold and just drop off the bank. But then the FBI and the IRS is gonna question where you get the money from, right? So Buckeye is very interesting, and the demand has actually improved over the last month. However, supplies continue to build and quickly overwhelms that effect. So the Buckeye supply has increased, but our demand has increased in Buckeye, but because the inventory has skyrocketed in Buckeye, it's dropped to 22%. There's more homes now than buyers in that area. So we talked about dominoes, right? Every domino that falls, everybody thinks the sky's falling, but there's certain dominoes that have to fall, right? Prices is one of them, right? Which is the last indicator. Demand is one of them, right? Increasing of price reductions is one of them. Seller concessions is one of them. Days on market. With all these indicators pointing to a sharp slowdown in Greater Phoenix market, supply has increased quickly in the last 2 months, while demand has increased, or demand is much weaker than it was back in March, significantly lower. Actually, supply has increased over 20%. In some cases, actually over double what it was over a month ago. Prices are much slower to react to change to the market, especially closed sales price. What I mean by that is, right now we're seeing closed sales prices. People still think that the prices of homes are going up. Well, those homes are 45 days ago. That's when the market was good, right? We gotta stop looking at the past or what happened and look at the future in front of us. Open houses, 0 people coming through. Mortgage applications, right? Open lot box, open rates, down significantly. All those are indicators now. Close rates, close prices is what happened months ago. Nobody cares what happened months ago. We care about what's gonna happen next month. Even sooner, so right now, prices of homes have, the demand has increased. Demand has increased significantly. It actually increased faster than we expected. We're now starting to appear the sellers market is gradually depleting or gradually losing control. Sellers are losing confidence, right? Number of cancellations and expirations are through the roof, more than we've ever seen. I've seen in some months, in good months, back 3-4 years ago, on the first of the month, we get like 300 expires or cancels. Now we're getting 300, sometimes 200 a day.
Wow.
So those are consumers who are saying, oh crap, I can't sell my house for $1 million like I expected, because I was expecting a California buyer to give me cash. Well, those buyers don't exist. They're gone. right? Anybody who has $1 million cash is probably in their 401k or some kind of stock trading or some annuity that is probably getting kicked around like the stock market's doing right now. Others will react more asking price. So right now, if you're a seller and you're trying to sell for the highest peak of the market, outrageous numbers, this may not be your time. But if you're in a situation like your seller who needs to sell a property to move another one for life change circumstance, this is a perfect time for them to do so. So active listings, right? We saw that we were down here for a while, for a long time. This is active listings. And the way this is taken also includes other factors too, but it kind of peaked up for the last few weeks. Last week was the only week that we actually did not have a steady incline. We had a pitch of degree of loss, right, compared to the trajectory we're in. That was primarily because of the 3-day weekend that was happening. Kids were coming out of school. I know some schools graduated last week too. I think Gilbert was last week too. So a lot of graduations were happening. So a lot of families didn't have a chance to list their properties. After a rapid rise in inventory over the last 5 weeks, last week increase was not as crazy as we saw the previous weeks. Again, 3-day weekend, major holidays, kids coming out of school. We have to see what happens this week, even though it's a shorter week, on what happens for new inventory. Although we increased from 30 to 32%, it was noticeable, smaller than the previous weeks, and it could possibly be an indicator of a slowing of momentum on the cooling trend. So they're saying potentially that the cooling down may be slowing down, which could be potentially true, but there was another variable that happened about a week and a half ago. Anybody know what it was? They actually cut rates down a little bit, which kind of helped a little bit. And ever since that happened, the number of applications of new mortgages increased, which is kind of significant. So why is that? Mortgage rates eased back a little bit and new loans are up. That's where it went from like 5.3 to like 5.12, 5.15. And because of that decrease in rates, which granted, this week we're back to what it was before, if not more. But because of that, new mortgage applications has increased and it sparked some new activity. We are in a very uncertain time with inventory almost doubled from 16% to 32 in days on market, 16 to 32 days between March and late May. It's actually a little bit closer, I think more than past 32, but it is faster. It's a faster increase than we saw in 2005, the last year, which we experienced a very similar change and a sudden from a buyer's frenzy. So not really. In 2005, we saw a slowdown in the market index, and it kind of took over into 2007, 2000, and in 2008 when we really felt it. Demand was actually, but it wasn't a sharp decrease as far as market demand. It was a gradual decrease.
3-year slide.
So it took 2.5 years for us to really notice it, right? Here, we're noticing it now. If days of inventories returns to 120 to 140, then we'll have seen the market return to a normal balanced. So once we hit to 120 days, or basically 4 months of days of market, then that's when we would return theoretically back to like a buyer's market.
That's a supply, that's not necessarily
Correct.
an indication of how long something sits on the market, it's just how much supply there is out there.
Correct. But days on market are upticking too.
Right, which
Which is-
increases that number.
Exactly. So like that last week, we had an uptick in production. So we had almost 2,100 transactions in all Maricopa and Pinal County combined. We also seen it's kind of fluctuating up, number of escrows coming back, but the number of escrow cancellations has decreased from previous weeks because now lenders have figured out maybe we should do a rate lock extension, right? Before we never had to. Before we never had to rate lock. Oh, it's 30 days, 30 days. Then here comes the repairs. And those repairs take 2 or 3 weeks. Now our escrow is 45 days. Now we didn't lock the rate. Oh, what are we gonna do now? The rate was 4.6. Now it's 5.3.
Whoops.
Shit, buyer, you have to come up enough to $8,000. And buyers didn't have that. Now lenders are getting more and more cautious because guess what? Lending companies are shutting their doors. Freedom Financial,
Wow.
they're laying massive people off right now.
Caliber is close.
Caliber.
Let me
Yep.
ask you a
Crazy.
question then.
Caliber was actually covering a lot of the lock extensions towards the end.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yes, sir.
If that's the case, then, I mean, why would we not just adjust how we look at it from the front end, knowing that, you know, what the trend has been in the past? I'm almost like losing track of how I'm gonna ask this question. I'm gonna have to come back. I've literally had a brain fart here. I
No, no
forgot-
worries, no worries.
Forgot what I was gonna ask.
But that's why, that's a good, I don't know the exact question, but that's always, I've been saying, you have
Oh,
to.
here's my question. Why wouldn't you just, as a rule, put a rate lock on every, pardon my French, fucking, mortgage that you have out there?
Because lenders right now are just like real estate agents, they're employees, not consultants. They just wanna get paid, right? I would tell you, I talked to another agent of ours that works in nothing but, up north in McDowell Ranch area, been there for 20 years. Everybody there hates them. Well, not everybody our agent knows in that area doesn't like them. Because they're transactional, right? They just put a property in the market, $2-3 million, 6%, right? All they care is about the transaction, they don't care about the consumer, right? You never hear from them. How many times you try to call a listing agent now? Well, now,
Yeah.
one thing that's changed, right? Before 3 months ago, 2 months ago, you call a listing agent, you never hear from them. The only time you hear from them was when your saved search went pending. You're like, damn it! All I wanted to know if my offer was valid. Now what you're seeing is more of the listing agents calling you. They're following up with you. Hey, I'm gonna follow up on your offer. Is your client still interested? We haven't seen that in a long time. Listing agents now have to work because the home's not selling in 3 seconds anymore.
Good loan officers should always lock in your rate.
Yeah.
Is that something that we as agents should now be sharing with our potential clients? Hey, if you're getting a conventional mortgage, you might wanna lock that rate in.
You should, but what's happening, it's not overall what's happening. So what was
happening?
happening is you were in a contract for 30 days.
Good for you.
You do an inspection at 10.
I'm glad you sold
You
that.
get a Binzer back within 15 days to the seller, right? Then the seller has 5 more days to respond. Then you're at 20 days. The seller says, hey, I'm gonna fix this, and this, right? Well, then they go out and get a contract to do the work, and the contractor's like, I can't get those windows for at least a month. I can't get that copper wire you want anymore because it's delayed. Or I try to get the parts, or contractors don't even answer the phone.
So you give a credit.
So now, well, maybe give a credit. That's how it should be, right? It should be give a credit and call it a day. But then it pushes cost of escrow back, right? The lenders locked you in at 30, but now it went to 45, and they don't extend it. Here comes the cost of escrow. Hey, we did lock your rate, but it was only for a 30-day rate lock. So in order to increase your rate, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars.
So what you're saying, Marty, is a way to avoid that would be if you have something that you want the seller to fix, rather than taking all that time to fix it, just say, hey, this is what it would cost to fix it, and we want you to give us a cash back.
there's a
And I'm gonna
ways.
spend it with the buyer's agent and say, here's the good news. We're gonna give you credit, you can pay for your own vendors, you have a relationship, so you can make sure it's done right. I'm gonna spin it that way, and then that agent's gonna go back and have that exact same conversation, so you make sure it's done right.
If I'm a listing
Versus
agent,
lipstick
yeah.
on a pig.
Right.
If
And
I'm
that
a-
solves all your problems, because you don't have to worry about your rate going up. You don't have to worry about somebody else doing the repairs. You can actually just take the money and do the repairs the way you want them done.
Correct.
So-
Now, if I was a listing agent, that would be my preferred go-to, right? Push a credit to them, and we do that now for all listings. Push a credit because we don't know what we don't know,
But
especially on
that's,
the backside.
ultimately, you have to then convince your seller to give up cash, which is sometimes a hard thing to do.
It's
What-
not,
no,
because they don't wanna deal with the
it's-
headaches.
It's not.
It's the same, it's the same amount of money, you're gonna pay for it, the vendor, or you're gonna pay it to the buyer.
Right.
It's no difference.
But here's the challenge, right? Let's say you get past all that and you agreed, right? There's another person who comes on the back end, appraiser. And now think of it as an FHA or VA loan. Nope, that does have to be fixed. Those shingles have to be fixed. Then there's a lender
We
required
had that with
repair.
Stephanie with that condo, it was a nightmare.
And that's when it happens. Typically, the lenders give us that information, appraisals, 2-3 days before we close escrow. Now we have to scramble.
Right.
And we gotta figure out, because now at that point, there is no credit to be given. It has to be done, because otherwise it becomes a funding condition and a loan condition. So now you have to scramble to get contractors.
But you as the agent kinda knew what was not gonna fly anyways. If I go to a house, if the mold, if the paint is peeling, or there's no flooring, I know that it's not gonna pass.
You
That's
know from
where-
the minute you walked in, though. I mean, you have.
I've been doing this a while and I'm an expert, so I know what the appraisers are gonna call out.
Right.
You call Frank or me, we're gonna tell you, Frank will tell you, Julio's gonna be to tell you in a minute. If you go and say, hey man, look at these pictures, this is gonna fly, we're gonna say, no, that's not gonna fly.
And it
You
goes
get
back
that.
to what we were been saying all along. And when Marty was talking about CCRs, we're consultants, know your job. If I write, on all my contracts, I try and get the inspection done that week. I don't wait till the 10th day to send in the
I do it on
picture.
day one.
I send it, as soon as the inspection is done, I send the inspection, and if not that night, the next day I send the binder. So instead of waiting for 10 days, I'm at day 5 sending it. And I ask the seller agent if I can get it back, so not wait 5 days.
Right, well, just
Because
because you
most
have
loan-
the time to take doesn't
Yeah.
mean you should take that.
Most loan
I
officers
do
will
my
wait until you're
inspection
through
the
the
next day.
pincer period before they order the appraisal, because that's when stuff falls apart.
Yep.
So again, it's being a consultant,
Yep.
knowing what you guys, what we're supposed to, what we're getting paid tens of thousands of dollars to do.
And that's why they'll call you back in a year, 2 years, or 3 years.
Yep.
Cause you were awesome.
And knowing our craft, right? Knowing what we're supposed to do as agents, and it's that fiduciary duty that we have a client sign when we do that agent's disclosure of fiduciary duty, loyalty, obedience, right? Accountability,
Huge.
all those factors. And you're right, there should be some method, but these listing agents unfortunately don't check these properties out. They don't check, hey, Mr. Seller, no, we can get you $900,000 to sign here. They put it in the market and they hope they get $900,000. You never hear from them again because they're so busy, right? They're probably in Lake Havasu with Marty jet ski. But no, what I mean is that it takes a village, right? It takes a village to close a house. So if the agent's not doing their inspection within 10 days, like Julio's talking about and Marty's talking about, if they don't get their bids back in certain days, that means they can't order the appraisal. And then they can't order the appraisal. That takes a week, right? Lender orders it, it goes to appraisal tech distinguishes out, it gets an appraisal, they come back out, appraiser gets it, great, they go to the property, they do some measurements, there's some pictures, they have to get it, they send it to a QA department, it goes to QA, goes to another appraisal, it goes back to the lender gets it, it goes to QA, they verify the numbers, and then they say, here you go. That typically take a week,
10 days.
10 days.
Yeah.
Business days.
You know,
So
you
you're
can pay for a rush, an extra $150. Your seller has to, your buyer has to pay for it. You can rush it.
But then that's 10 days, right? So if you did everything contractually to the date, right? I gotta be on the date. You're at day 20, right? Inspector, Binzer, day 10. Notice the seller, response back from the buyer. That's 20 days. If you're a 30-day escrow, then you got 10-day inspection turnaround, appraisal turnaround. You're getting your appraisal a day of closing. Yeah, there's blinking paint. There's some wood right in the fascia. The fascia has to be replaced. The door doesn't close the way. 2 windows are cracked. They have to be replaced. And you're like, now here we are, the extensions and the extensions and the extension. And if you can find a window under 30 days, please let me know. Because like I told my wife, we were driving by again the freeway. It's like, hey honey, look, no windows. It's been 3 months. And that's the way it is right now. So if you are proactive as an agent and a consultant, not an employee, because the employee gets told what to do. Remember, we don't get told what to do. We actually educate and help our clients out. That's what we do, right? We're consultants. If you're a consultant, not an employee, you will get your documentation on time. You get everything. You will coordinate all these parties to prevent an issue for your client having to pay $4,000, $5,000, $8,000, $14,000 extra in rate difference, which I've heard. Could you imagine having to your clients, hey, I got some bad news, man. Well, that 3.9 you got, for that 4.2 you got, it's gonna be 6.
That ain't my conversation.
Yeah, I
That's the
know.
lender's conversation.
You know what? If the lender told me if I was to get the inspection done 5 days sooner, you would have said that. You know what? Nobody's gonna have that conversation. Nobody's gonna, fall on that sword. Nobody's going to. But if you knew better, you would have done better. And that's my thing, right? And I agree with you. And it starts and ends with the agent.
Makes too much common sense.
So one dominoes that I said that was one of the last ones was the prices, right? So had anybody seen what's happening with prices lately? They're dropping. We had last week we had 2,200 price reductions, which is unheard of, like in the last year and a half. This week we had 2,500. That's an increase of almost 12% week over week. So 2,500 price reductions. I went to a friend of mine this weekend. We had a get together for our daughter's graduation. He says, I want to sell my house. I'm like, great, let's sell your house. We'll do it for the flat fee listing. He's like, oh, I like it. Hey man, the house was $800,000, $890. I think they dropped it like $50,000 this week. I'm like, well, that's $50,000 not enough. It needs to be like a $100,000 drop. But prices of homes are slowly trying to drop because sellers are getting frustrated that, hey, and you saw it. I'm sorry to point you out, but you saw the house up north in New River, right? That client wanted $1 million for that property, right? And no matter what
The one I had?
yeah, you had.
Yeah.
And we had to reduce, and we had a conversation with them. I sat down and talked on the phone.
You did.
You need to be at this price point to sell. So at which
And we
point
went
these
there,
sellers
and still didn't sell it.
and still didn't sell, but at which point, right? But if they were done it 60 days ago, it'd been gone.
I know.
That they kind of missed their window, so now sellers are getting frustrated, right? They're missing their window because they're so stuck in this news that happened 3 months ago. That news is saying that, hey, in March we had a 34. That was March. I don't know what I had for dinner on Monday last week. Who cares what I had for dinner on March? March, 34% appreciation. Well, guess what, David? I won $1 million. Well, your neighbor sold for $680. I won $1 million. It's not gonna happen. You're gonna be in this
That's
boat right
exactly
here.
what happened.
You're gonna be in this boat. You're gonna sit there for 30 days on price reduction, price reduction, price reduction, price reduction. So where the price reduction coming from? Between 300,000 and 400,000, which is really insane to believe. There's homes in that price point, right? Between 300,000 and 400,000. Yes, we do. We have some homes in that price point. 180 of them had a price reduction, up to at least $10,000 median price reduction.
It's pretty crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Even the lowest price point, people say there's no homes for under 400,000. No, we do. Just not a lot of homes in that price point. Under 200,000, there's a piece of land with a shed. That's 200,000. I mean, we looking for a lady right now in Gold Canyon. She's looking for almost an acre, and it's like there's 3 in the state for under 200,000. 3. Price reduction between 500 and 800. Between 5 and 600, average price reduction. We have 612 total in 1 week, and average 13,300. Between 5 and 6, between 6 and 8, average $18,000. Let's talk about over $1 million. We had 224 of those. Between 800 and 1 million, we had a $25,500 price reduction on average, and between 1 million to 1.5, we had about $50,000 price reduction average. Pretty significant. So the days of, remember we had 64% contracts going above asking. What's happening here?
It's over.
That was 2 days ago,
That
2
was
weeks
two-
ago.
2 weeks ago.
When we were talking about that still.
But we don't talk about those no. We don't talk about that no more like we don't talk about Bruno, right? We don't talk about prices over listing like we don't talk about Bruno, because it doesn't happen. Like right now, a lot of sellers are not they're trying to list their properties as is, right? No floorings, no paint. I want to do nothing little as possible. We had John had a client like that. Doesn't want to do nothing to it. Granted, he could have made a bigger margin, but he's had to go somewhere else, and they want to list it as high as possible. Well, guess what? Reality is going to hit you over the head.
I think it's great.
I think it's,
I think
well,
it's a great thing. People are trying to gouge the market, just be greedy.
they are, and a lot of the California buyers, we so-called California buyers, they're gone. LA is still a prominent one in Arizona, but they started buying a lot in Prescott, which we talked about last week. If a major recession happens and we had economic downturn, number 1 is going to be Lake Havasu, and number 2 is Prescott.
Yeah, the numbers were down like Havasu this weekend for sure. Like everybody told me, oh yeah, Californians aren't coming up.
Yep.
Which is literally right across the river.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like right across the river.
Yep.
They'll be like, Saturday Night Live,
Yeah.
down by the river.
In a van down by the river.
Yeah. So this is the market index that we've been talking about since the beginning of the year. Remember this beginning of this year, we're coasting this. Are we gonna go over, you start going up. Which is that roller coaster in Knott's Farm, the wooden one? The Ghost Mountain, Ghost something?
Magic Mountain?
No, it's in Knott's Farm. You go up, it's a wooden roller coaster, you go up and go up,
Yeah.
and you kind of flatten out for a little bit, you're like, are we going to drop? Oh crap.
Yeah.
That's how we were doing it this year, right? We're going up, chicka, right? Are we gonna drop? And boom, here we are. So I said it by here, that we're gonna be in 3 weeks, we'd be at 300, and now we're at almost 280.
Ghost Rider.
Actually, this is, Ghost Rider?
Yep.
Okay, so actually, we're more like right here, this is as of Friday, we're at 279 for the market index, which is pretty crazy. So again, every week, what is your point, Frank? You have given me all this information, what does it really mean? How can I apply this to my business now? Or how can I project this to potential consumers, whether it's a buyer or a seller? So what's the point? Well, we're still in the seller's market. Let's not get that mistaken, right? We're still in the seller's market. If all of a sudden, and I said this last year, Who remembers, show of hands, I said that we're in a very hot market. The only thing that can change our market is interest rates. Anybody remember me saying that? Great. And if we do go into it and we increase rates significantly, we will have a sharp downturn. Remember that? That's what I talked about last year. But we are still in a seller's market, regardless of where we at right now in the CMI. We're still in a seller's market. We're just rapidly changing towards a buyer's market. But 279 points in CMI is still pretty good. Now, if that just actually flattens out and just coasts and becomes balanced, that's still a good thing, because the number of homes are in the market. I mean, I'm not sure if you go back a few slides. This morning, we're at 10,400. 10,400 homes in the market. We talked about April 29th, we're at 3,500. That's a significant increase in inventory. The last time we were like this was over 2.5 years ago when we were at 12,000 homes on market. And it was April of 2019, I think, or 2018, 19. That's 3 years ago. That's insane. I mean, we are still in a seller's market, but you know what? We're in a better seller's market for a buyer than we were 6 months ago.
It's less of a seller's market, but it's still
It
a
is.
seller's market.
It's still a seller's market, but it's a seller's market with options for buyers. Because what's happened 3 months ago, or 2 months ago, or even a freaking month ago, is that buyers were like Marty's saying, like, I can sell my house, but where am I gonna go? A buyer's in a rental and says, wait, what? Remember that picture that, I'm not sure I share with all of you, but a guy who posts on social media that he's completely deflated because 6 years ago, a home sold for $245,000, and 4 days prior from him writing a comment, it sold for $800,000. He said he worked 10 years of his life to get to a certain point in his life, and now he's completely deflated. Well, that's what buyers are. They're completely deflated. I was talking about here. Buyers have had enough. You know, prices of homes kept going up, kept going up, kept going up. 40%? Really? That is not normal. That is not normal. 10%, that's good. But 40% in 3 months? That's insane. So you mean to tell me that if my house is worth $200,000, my home just appreciated $80,000 in 3 months? Take my cash and go, baby. Adios. It's not normal. But we're still in a seller's market, which is a seller's market with buyer options. Prices are still increasing, and they are. They are going to increase. If we continue the way we're going, they're going to increase, and then they're going to stop. And then we're going to, it's like the lights turned off. What happened? Well, the data was there. You just weren't paying attention. I guarantee you how many agents, how many consumers are seeing this data day over day. I talk to agents and consumers every single day. They're like, Denise is not telling me that. Well, they're not telling about UFOs either. But guess what? I guess NASA's releasing articles that they are.
There.
So, demand is weakening faster than we anticipated. It's actually weakening faster than I anticipated. I thought it was gonna take 6 months to a year, not 3 months. Not even a month that it was gonna take. Expect Feds to increase. Now, this is really why I say this, is watch what's in front of you with an open mind, right? I watch Bloomberg because Bloomberg gives me stats, it gives me stock markets. You can watch whatever you watch. But I try to keep as versatile as possible. But keep an open mind. Because Powell, man, he wears his heart in his sleeve, like Lil Wayne said, like it's a new fashion. He tells you, hey man, we're gonna increase rates 0.5 point. Then he told it, he did it. He told you before that, hey, we'd increase rates 0.25 point. And he did it. Like everything he tells you a month prior, he does it. There's no smoke and mirrors. And he even said, when we meet in June, we're probably gonna increase rates again in June and July 0.5 point each. They're gonna have to. Now that's 1% in 2 months, 1.5% in 3 months. And they said we're gonna continue aggressively increase rates over and over again. So it'll be interesting to find out where we're at with rates by the end of the year. And they're gonna increase it modestly. With increasing rates and 43% in appreciation, buyer says, no mas.
No mas.
I'm done. It's cheaper to rent than it is to buy. That's proven. I proved that to you guys. I share the numbers. It is cheaper to rent than to buy. It's more feasible to a renter right now to figure out what's going to happen. And how many of you right now have a buyer that says, you know what, I'm just going to wait a year to wait it out. I'm going to rent for a year to see what happens with prices. They've had enough. We're seeing a significant increase in price reductions. 2,500 price reductions over, I think 400, I think 800 in a couple of months of cancellations and expires that we had in a couple of months. More than we ever had in the last year or two. What we'll see in the next few weeks, not few months. We no longer talk about months, we talk about weeks. We're gonna see increase in price reductions, which we see from last week to this week. We're gonna see increased days on market. We're gonna see those right now. We're actually seeing those right now. Less and less offers over asking, which we're gonna see that too. I think Stephanie put an offer in for a house. It was not over asking. It's just straight up. I think it was last week or before. I think they got it. It was crazy. Didn't have to break the piggy bank. The days of waiving appraisals, waiving inspections, those days are over, right? Which is a good thing if you're a buyer, seller and a buyer, because now you don't have to feel like you're getting taken advantage of on the other side.
Sure.
And the last domino, which is starting to happen now, very so slightly, but I told you this is the very last, second to last domino. Last domino is price drops, like that market drop. But second to last domino is sellers concessions. And we're seeing sellers concessions up now. So we're seeing them coming up. Slightly, but they are coming up. So if you're a buyer, right, it is cheaper to rent than it is to buy. It is. But you know what? Nobody has built wealth renting. I always tell a renter, hey David, when you actually done with this lease, is your seller gonna give you or your landlord gonna give you half the equity? Saying, David, thank you so much for your participation in my equity building. No, David, you're probably gonna have to fight tooth and nail to get the deposit back, right? So right now, even though it is cheaper to buy, is it really cheaper to rent than it is to buy?
No, of course not.
No. It is cheaper in the short term, on the now, but long term it's not, because you know what? If the prices depreciate or actually drop 10%, the way it's going, it might appreciate 20% before the end of the year, before they drop. So you're saving what, you're negative 8%?
And your interest rates will be up
And your-
2% by the end
yeah.
of the week, end of the year,
So
end of the week.
So you're gonna make 9% of your investment. And then by next year, this time, you can refinance out and you'll be back at a lower payment, saving $400 a month. Better than Geico. So, is it cheaper now? Yes. Long term, no. Inventory is up 49%. 49%. With over 10,400 homes in the active market. So right now, if you're a buyer and you're gonna buy, you have options. You do. Buyers right now, as far as contract rates, or first 2 days, offers are down. So buyers have options now. And don't be, if you're a listing agent, don't take this for granted. Oh, you know what, I'm just gonna push them to the level. I'm gonna push, because they will break and bend. A buyer right now can give you a Benzer and say, you know what, I'm good. I just saw 3 homes pop up last week I like better than yours. Adios. Sorry, that's good music. I like that song. Don't let interest rates hold you back from being a buyer. We saw the chart I showed you. If you look at historical, right? Look at historical data before you make a decision, right? Have a plan. If you notice anytime there's a major hike in 12 to 18 months, in 36 months on long-term ones, 12 to 18 months rates will drop back down to where they were, maybe a slightly below. Don't wait for the sky to fall. Because guess what? If you're out there right now, if you're a buyer and you think the sky is gonna fall, you have a better chance of finding Tupac smoking a blunt in downtown Phoenix. Just telling you straight up. The sky is not gonna fall. It will adjust, but it won't fall. Because there's a correction. The correction's not bad. It's just not a bubble. Prices are expected to drop, but not before they continue to rise. So if you are waiting for this 11% price drop, just remember what's coming up to that point before it drops, 20+%. If you're a seller, sell your house now. Remember that meme? The guy says, "Why are you open on Thanksgiving?" Because you're here. I had better things to do, but you came here. It's like, if you're a seller, what should you do? Sell now. Just sell quick. Actually, if you are a seller, if you definitely want to move, if you're a seller with 3% or lower, and you want something with a better backyard, just do it yourself. Because if you sell it, you're not going to get the same payment. And is that beautiful backyard going to be worth $400 or $500 more a month? But if you're a seller because, hey, I have my mother coming to move with me and I need a bedroom for her, a 2-story home, that's a need, not a want. You can buy wants. You can't buy needs. Well, you could if you change your house. You could, but you know what I mean. The market is shifting faster than we ever expected. That's just bottom line. It has. days on market are upticking very rapidly, and homes are sitting in the market longer than we anticipated them to be. But guess what? So are price reductions. Because homes are sitting so much longer in the market, we have more and more price reductions. We have accounted for 2,500 price reduction in the last 7 days, which is up 12%. And this is one of my favorite ones. iBuyers are pulling back on their offers. Matter of fact, if you look at the last quarter of 2021 compared to last quarter, they're down 25% in acquisitions. Talking to a lot of the iBuyers and institutions, they're like, some of them have built in contingencies for a downturn market, but they're not gonna buy as much as they were buying last year, in some cases, right? REITs are back, but also, mind you, Wall Street money is what fuels them. If Wall Street takes a huge hit like it did last week, that might slow things down. John, what are you seeing as far as underwriting?
I mean, the Pagaya, which is what I do, is they're not buying anything,
They're not buying anything?
zero, just because they have to raise funds again. I mean, they went crazy in February, March, but
Well, some of these REITs, right, they are based upon the stock market. They're hedge funds, which is fine, we work with all of them, right? But if the stock market drops 2,000 points like it did last week, what do you think that's gonna happen? Here's another one, how many of your friends or family right now are struggling to, thinking about retirement, but now they can't because they lost a bunch of money in their 401k? So if 25% of your market was an iBuyer or institutional buyer, and they're not buying right now, you lost 25% of your market just like that, just in the stock market. And they're down 25% in acquisitions from last quarter to the quarter before that. I want to find out what this quarter does. So also, don't be surprised, mark my words, don't be surprised if Open Door and OfferPad are increasing their fees and reducing their purchase prices, their offer amounts. Guarantee you. So they are, guarantee you.
May I say that again?
Open Door starts when they acquire a property, they increase their fees up to 7%.
Oh, fees.
Their fees, they might increase up to 7%, and then decrease their amount they're gonna offer you.
Oh my gosh.
We had an offer on that property Mitchell had, and I thought they were gonna come in at 360 or at 380, 390, because all the comps show at 410. They even have a property around the corner, 415. The offer came in almost 370.
Still 5%, or they haven't increased it yet?
They haven't even got to that point yet.
They're about 5%, but now they're back at charging you another 3 to 4% on repairs. I had 2 offers like that.
Oh, okay, right, when they do the final walk, when they do the.
When they do the exterior walk, I get the one I'm closing in January
Yeah, that's how
23rd,
they're
June
gonna pad their
23rd, $20,000 in repairs.
That's how they're gonna pad their numbers, that's what they pad.
They're gonna pad. I mean, they're obviously a profit company, right? So, and this is what we have to educate our consumers, so that way we don't,
Okay.
we don't disappoint them. We have to meet or
Totally.
exceed their expectations, right? We have to give them all their available options,
Always.
whether it be a
Always.
traditional market or it might be an investor. But if, just like you said, CCNRs, if we go in there and says, oh man, I wasn't expecting this. I always advise my clients, look, we're in a downturn market. Chances are, any buyer, whether it's an iBuyer or a regular buyer, is gonna come in here and they wanna get things fixed. Because they're noticing how much competition there
That's
is.
fair.
It is fair. But that makes us a consultant, not an employee. For those sellers waiting to sell, this may be your time to list your property. Just trying to say it right now.
And
If
price
you-
it correctly.
Huh?
And
And
price
price it correctly. If you're wanting to sell because you have to move, relocate, or you want a bigger house or smaller house or a single, whatever, if you have to sell, this might be the time to sell. Right now. Prices are still projected to continue to rise, but a slower rate in the next few months, even if we have a major economic recession. Questions? Concerns,
No, but
comments?
something I used to do, I'm gonna get back to, when I list a property, if they wanna do it their way, we'll do it that way, but I write it in the MLS, in the listing agreement. We're gonna change it after 10 days to this amount, and then another 10 days, and another 10 days. It's in writing, so they can't balk on it.
You could, absolutely. And here's another one too. A lot of buyers right now, we're giving sellers like 30+ days post possessions, right, for free. You might expect buyers to start charging you for those days, because it's gonna cost them more money now to buy that home than it did a year ago. On both sides, on price and rates. Could you have a question?
So are the iBuyers, is that including Open Door too? Are they slowing down on
Yeah,
acquisitions?
they're slowing acquisition from what I can see, even OfferPad as well too. Open Door doesn't count, Open Door, Zillow doesn't count because they're gone, but I do see a slowdown in them. And if they don't slow down, if they start to pick up again, they will pick up, but they're gonna be a higher increase either in the consent upfront, they're gonna front load it, or they're gonna back load it, or they're just gonna reduce their purchasing price on your home. Because they got smarter guys in that room than we do, right? More than me, not more than me. I'm pretty gifted. I'm sorry. My nickname was Einstein for a reason, but I'm just saying, like, they got
Maybe
some
not
pretty-
on this side of the room.
Center of gravity right here, right? But what I'm saying is that they got some pretty smart guys and pretty smart algorithms to actually project, right? So some of these homes, the Open Door, even Zillow did it wrong. Wrong, right? They were taking 6 months from now. Make sense? Yeah, the market's gonna appreciate 20% in 6 months. Let's just give you an offer for 20% higher now. Well, you're not
1%.
selling your house 6
1%.
months from now at 1% too, with no repairs.
Couldn't
But
believe it.
okay, so the house is gonna worth that much money in 6 months, but you're trying to sell it now. Oh, are you gonna hold it for 6 months? Well, no, we're gonna sell it now. Oh, okay.
Where do I sign?
Great business model. And guess what happened? They flopped. Redx, the other company, REDX, they were a national company. They did a flat fee. They did no commissions, or they actually flopped about a week ago, closed their doors down. A lot of tech companies are closing, but the other big tech companies right now, their whole model is to make it consumer friendly. We talked about this, and they're trying to make it as streamlined as possible. Open Door is not an exception to that. They're also trying to. So, but yeah, they are slowing down. If they do pick up, we'll see what their prices look like. It's not gonna be like the same offers they were given last year, I guarantee. Or if they do, they're gonna charge you a bunch of money in the back end repairs or a bunch of money in credits, just so you can equilibrium that out.
Yep.
And then what about everyone who's, like, if you're recommended to sell your house, where are those sellers going? Are they just buying another house because they have equity, or
You know,
what do you
the
recommend?
biggest ones I see right now, the ones that are approaching me directly are telling me they want to rent. A lot of sellers are renting right now. Because the thing is that we were in a perfect storm about 6 months ago, maybe even longer. Last year, November, December, before last year, we were in a perfect storm. We had no inventory in houses, and we had no inventory in rentals. So everybody saw that and took an opportunity. How many of you have heard about a renter saying, like, my landlord has increased my rent $300 to $500 more a month?
Oh, yeah.
Because people were greedy, right? I mean, I said it multiple times. The movie Wall Street is a great movie. Greed is good, but greed can also be bad. So then what happens to all these iBuyers, like all these institutions, like what John works with, right? They were buying these properties, and guess what? They were renovating them all. Oh, I mean, 100. I mean, they were buying 400 homes a month, 600 homes a month, buying them all. And it took them 90 plus days to renovate them. And then they all hit the market in January, February. They all hit the market. If you look at the rental market, it went up 20, 28, 30%, 40% inventory, new inventory. But again, the new inventory that came out, it came at a lower price point than they were last year. So now people are like, oh, wait a minute. I can get the house. Me and my wife saw a house. We're like, this is actually cheaper than other houses that were last year. This is insane. Last year, a 4-bedroom house in Mesa was $2,500 to $2,700 a month. A month. Now it's $2,100, $2,300. The balance, the tables have turned, right? The scales have tipped. So now a person can say, I could rent, which slows the market down. So last year we were in a perfect storm for that. This year we're not. Consumers have options, and they know it. And now a consumer is aware because all this technology around their phones, right? Homes come up there in a search, and Zillow, Realtor.com, right? Oh, another home. I mean, I talk to agents, so like, they got 10 homes scaled to show, and go, hey, a home just came up on my search radar. Can we go see that one too? Oh, another one just came up there right now. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Buyers are excited now. Because last year they were deflated. They were done. Good, bad, indifferent?
That's good stuff.
Good stuff.
That's a great slideshow. If you can send that out, that'd be awesome.
Thank you.
Yep.
Absolutely, I can send that too.
Okay.